AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 7 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. The one thing I think, I'm not a Bible scholar in any way, but the one thing I think I love about what the church has taught me, and again, I'm not a Bible scholar, but it's just to respect one another, just to judge. What's that thing? Judge not, lest you be judged, or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. See, I'm always horrible with trying to quote the Bible or references to anything religious, but we have somebody on the phone who does it very well. He's written a #1 book. It's called Building a Bridge: How the Catholic Church and the LGBT community can enter into a relationship of respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Father James Martin is on the phone, and it's an honor to have him there. Good morning, Father. How are you?
Good morning. Good to be with you.
And where are you? Where are you calling from?
I am in New York City, and our office is here.
My favorite cities. Are you in St. Patrick's Cathedral? Well, the only Catholic church I know in New York City, by the way.
I work at America Magazine, which is a Catholic magazine in Midtown, and I've been here for about 20 years. So my main work is as a writer.
Does the Catholic Church get a bad rap from the community at large? It seems like when the Pope said something about abortion the other day, everybody piled up on him, and I don't know what you're going to tell us today about the LGBT relationship, but do you find yourself constantly trying to correct people as to what the church's position is on anything?
Well, I think sometimes, although the church actually took a big step forward today. They released a document for a big meeting on youth called the Synod of Bishops on Youth, and they used in the document the term LGBT for the first time ever. And so the Vatican also, I also find myself reminding people that the Vatican is moving ahead, step by step.
And you point out in your book that when Jesus was looking at people, he was looking at each individual person and not a group.
That's right. He never saw people as categories. He didn't say, all right, here is this Samaritan woman, and I don't deal with Samaritan women, or here's this Roman centurion, and I don't deal with Roman centurions. It's more, here's this person who is in need and who I'm called to encounter and listen to and accompany and try to love as much as I can. So you're right, it's not about categories, it's about individuals.
So how does the book explain the bridge part? What are we bridging together? What two things come together?
Well, right, it's the gap between the LGBT Catholic community, who have for so long felt marginalized, and the institutional church, so bishops and priests and decision makers, who have in the past, sadly, done some things and said some things that have made them feel marginalized. And so it's trying to bring those two groups together.
And it's just not the Catholic religion. I'm Lutheran, and there's even that discussion in the Lutheran Church.
Oh, sure. It's the Catholic Church is far from the only church that is, guilty in that area. Different churches and denominations have moved forward in different ways. And also, as you know, it depends on parts of the country, too. If you're in a big city, a small city, north, south, east, west. I think the divide is mainly sort of urban and rural. I think in general there are more LGBT people in large urban areas, and so the churches there, of all denominations, tend to be more welcoming.
So does the teachings of the Catholic Church directly address the gay lifestyle?
Well, it does, but when people ask me about the teachings of the church, I think we have to start with the Gospels. That's the most important teaching of the church, and in there we see Jesus, who is, really welcoming to all sorts of people and to people who feel like they're on the margins. And the Catholic Church's teaching is that, same-sex marriage and same-sex relations are out of bounds. But by the same token, I try to remind people that is not the only quote-unquote teaching of the church. The most fundamental one is that God loves everybody and that God has, created everybody as a holy person.
Well, and I hope I'm not mixing oranges and apples, but it also says that adultery is a sin, and it also says, stealing is a sin, and so many other things that we all go to church regardless of the fact that we probably have engaged in those things as well.
Exactly.
I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm crossing.
No, it does. And I think also we tend to put the lives of LGBT people under this microscope, looking at their sexual morality. And one of the ones I like to use is a straight couple, living together before getting married, or even a person who's divorced. And Jesus himself comes out against divorce in the Gospels, but we don't exclude these people. And part of it is because we know people who are divorced and we know what good lives they're leading. And the same thing that we're called to do with them, we're called to do with LGBT people, which is get to know them.
And that's one, and that's one of the main things. I mean, people have got to have open minds, because people are people. Not one person is more of a giver than somebody else, or they don't care more for their children than somebody else.
Right, and as you say, people are people, and as we get to know people in the complexity and the complications of their lives, we get to know that they are trying their best, they're doing their best. LGBT people who have really felt confused and separate and apart from the church need to be accompanied. And this is exactly what Jesus did. And frankly, I think that if Jesus were here today, the first thing he'd do is go out to the LGBT community. Frankly, the first thing he'd do is to go to the migrants and refugees. The second thing might be to the LGBT people.
Yeah. Do you know the one where the two things come together is the September 11th, 2001 story, and I'm sure you know the name. You might even know the man who died, who was a Catholic priest. And he was gay, obviously celibate, but still gay. And he died helping people being rescued that day. And the firefighters loved him. I think he was a chaplain for the fire department. Mm-hmm. Does that ring a bell?
That's exactly right. Doug's exactly right. I was here in New York at the time. That was Father Michael Judge, and he was a Franciscan friar. And as you say correctly, the fire department chaplain. And he was, I don't know if you know this, he was the official first victim of the 9/11 tragedy, and he's victim number 0001. And as you say, he's a gay man and living celibately, and it shows that this kind of martyrdom, of someone who is celibate and holy and gay. And I talk about him in the revised version of the book too, to remind people that there are these holy models of gay people that we need to look at.
Well, I think the one thing, again, that I get from the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of the Bible, is to respect one another, is to accept people for who they are, what their talents are, what their choices are in life. I mean, unless it's to kill my family, I'm going to let them do what they should do, or what they feel like they should do.
Well, and we have to look at the Gospels, the teaching of the church, the tradition. We have to look at people's consciences, and I think what we tend to do is we tend to think that people who are going against anything that I think is right, aren't using their consciences. But, Pope Francis always reminds us that we're called to form consciences, not replace them, right? We're not called to just dictate to people what to do without understanding their situation. So, I agree. We really need to look at them as individuals.
So, and I know you probably have to go, but just to go back to the first thing I was trying to ask, does the public at large, for some reason, think that the Catholic Church is anti-gay?
I think they do, and I think there are good reasons that they think that. I think some of the ways that LGBT people have been treated and talked about can lead the church to people to think that. But, Pope Francis is really trying to change that, and, I think his 5 most famous words are, "Who am I to judge?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a copy of Building a Bridge. If you would like the copy that was sent to me, call me and I'll leave it on the desk here for you. Otherwise, the rest of us have to buy the book. What does SJ after your name mean? What does that mean?
It stands for Society of Jesus, which is the formal name of the Jesuits.
Oh, really?
But when this, so it's a kind of initials for the Jesuits.
I want to be a Society of Jesus.
Hey, feel free. Love to have you. Love to have you.
That sounds like a good place to be.
I think so.
Yeah, why not?
Father, we are in New York so often. I hope that we get to meet you one day. Thank you for taking time to be with us today.
My pleasure. God bless you both.
Real quickly, I found the book on Amazon. It's #1, by the way. I can't remember which category, but it was #1 this morning when I looked. Do you have a website dedicated to the book?
You can go to James Martin SJ, or you can go to my Facebook page, Father James Martin SJ.
Okay, excellent. Father Martin, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you both.
Been an honor. We'll be right back.
Help getting something awkward, large, or fragile, expertly packed or custom crated and shipped? Call on the professionals at PackMail. PackMail can ship anything, anywhere, and will find the perfect solution to even the most difficult shipping problems. From that big screen TV to an antique china cabinet, no item is too large or too delicate for the professionals at PackMail. Go online to WeShipOcala.com. That's WeShipOcala.com. PackMail ships anything, anywhere.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-6